Welcome in, everybody, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
We love to really get into a piece of work, and today we're looking at En Route to the Sunrise Saloon by Jonathan Kaye.
Yeah, a memoir that's chock full of, those nuggets of wisdom and life lessons, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing today.
Yeah, we're going to be trying to pull out as much as we can, in a way that's useful for you guys listening at home.
Actionable stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Actionable advice. And so, not just a summary,
Right.
but kind of picking it apart and seeing, what can we learn from the different anecdotes and stories that he tells.
Well, let's jump right into it then.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So right off the bat, the book opens with Kai as a young boy.
7 years old.
7 years old, yeah. And he's determined to climb this massive tree in his backyard. And what I love about this is he doesn't just, daydream about climbing it.
Yeah.
He finds some scraps of wood and using his Hanukkah hammer nails, he builds himself this little makeshift ladder.
Rung by rung, he builds this thing to get up into the tree.
I think it's amazing that he had such a, problem-solving mindset even at that age.
Yeah.
He was so determined to get to the top of this tree that he wasn't just going to, wish he could get up there. He was going to figure out a way to do it.
His mom, watching from the kitchen window, ready to intervene if she needs to. But
right.
But she let him go for it.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to what we often talk about on this show, which is a grit.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily just about powering through things. It's also about, using your ingenuity and resourcefulness to overcome obstacles.
Yeah.
Like he did with this ladder.
Now, we may not all be building, tree climbing ladders as adults, but that idea of breaking down a challenge into smaller steps, rung by rung, so to speak, that's something that I think we can all apply.
Absolutely.
So moving on a little bit, Kai also shares a story about facing a bully in junior high school kid named Brian Keneally.
Oh, yeah. This is a great story.
And Kay's got this very direct approach, to dealing with this bully. And picture this. He's lying in bed one morning, just fed up with this. And he decides, that's it. I've had enough.
I'm done.
So he puts on his steel-toed boots, gets on his bike, and rides over to Brian's house. Knocks on the door, and he politely asks Brian's father to go get him because he's there to fight. I mean, can you imagine?
Talk about direct.
Talk about direct, yeah. So,
I mean, sometimes that's the way to handle bullies, though, you got to disrupt their power dynamic. You got to kind of force them to rethink things.
That's interesting you say that. Do you think that that's always the best strategy, though? I mean, are there certain situations where maybe a different approach would be more effective or safer?
Yeah, you're right. You always have to think about safety first. And, sometimes a more strategic approach might be necessary,
right,
involving a trusted adult or finding other ways to kind of assert your boundaries without necessarily escalating things to that level. But I think the key here is that he was taking action.
Yeah.
He was recognizing that he was being mistreated and he was doing something about it.
So Brian's father goes to get him, comes back down, says, my son doesn't want to fight. And guess what? Brian never bothered Kaye again.
That's awesome.
I know, it's great. Right? So you see this theme of Kai just taking direct action, whether it's confronting a bully or tackling a creative project, which, speaking of that, let's talk about his journey in actually writing this memoir.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly straightforward, was it?
No, not at all. He talks about starting the book when he was 56.
Wow.
Working with ghostwriters, and then it sat for 11 years.
11 years. That's a long time.
No, it's a pretty serious commitment.
Yeah, he eventually finished it at 67 after a career shift and the COVID pandemic.
It really is a testament to his persistence, wouldn't you say? I mean, life threw him some curveballs, but he kept coming back to the story, eventually brought it to fruition.
It's a great reminder that, things don't always happen on a linear timeline. And that's okay. Projects, dreams, goals, they can take time and they can evolve.
Absolutely.
So let's delve into some of the broader themes now that Kai explores in the memoir.
Yeah, let's do it.
He's remarkably open about his personal growth. And he even points out, what he perceived as shortcomings from when he was younger.
Yeah, he talks about struggling with anger, impatience, being a poor listener, thinking he had all the answers.
All very relatable things, especially, in our younger years.
Oh, yeah.
He even describes himself as a very slow learner.
Which I think is incredibly humble of him.
Incredibly humble.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't dwell on these past struggles. He really frames them as opportunities for growth.
And he emphasizes seeking guidance and learning from others, underlining the importance of mentors in his journey. And this resonates with a point he makes later, quoting Theodore Roosevelt's Man in the Arena. You familiar with that?
Oh, yeah. You mean the part about how it's not the critic who counts, but the person actually in the arena, striving, making mistakes, and daring greatly.
Exactly. And then he follows that up with this fantastic quote from the naturalist Edward Abbey, urging people to enjoy yourselves, keep your brain in your head and your head firmly attached to the body active and alive. And I promise you this much. I promise you this one sweet victory over our enemies, over those desk-bound men and women with their hearts in a safe deposit box and their eyes hypnotized by desk calculators. I promise you this, you will outlive the bastards.
Wow. I love how Kaye weaves in these quotes to illustrate his philosophy. It's about, being present, embracing life's challenges, finding joy in the journey, learning from both successes and failures. But would you say there's a bit of a contradiction there? Because on the one hand, he's advocating for self-improvement.
Right.
But then he also seems to be saying, don't take life too seriously.
That's a great observation. And I think what he's getting at is this idea of balance. Yes, we should strive for growth and meaning,
Right.
but not at the expense of our enjoyment of life. It's about finding that sweet spot between effort and ease, between pushing ourselves and accepting ourselves as we are.
Yeah, I like
But
it.
finding that balance.
Yeah, it's like he's acknowledging that, life is messy and unpredictable, and that's part of what makes it so exciting.
Right. It's not about seeking some perfect, idealized version of ourselves
Right.
or our lives.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey with all its imperfections.
Yeah.
And finding those moments of joy along the way.
One of the quotes that I particularly like is when Kaye talks about being a reluctant enthusiast, and he's quoting Edward Abbey there, and he's cautioning us, against burning ourselves out, reminding us to save part of ourselves, for pleasure and adventure.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the importance of balance.
Yeah.
Recognizing that life isn't just about striving and achieving. It's also about savoring the simple joys, connecting with nature, spending time with loved ones, finding moments of peace and wonder amidst the chaos.
Like stop and smell the roses. We can get so caught up in the daily grind that we forget to appreciate the beauty around us.
Absolutely. And I think Kai is suggesting that we should be intentional about creating those moments.
Yeah.
Of joy and connection. It's not just about waiting for them to happen. It's about actively seeking them out.
And speaking of seeking things out, Kaye talks a lot about the importance of mentors in his life.
Yes. This is where we see the emphasis on seeking guidance and learning from others.
Yeah.
Whether it's a formal mentor-mentee relationship or simply observing and learning from people you admire, seeking out guidance from those who have walked the path before you can be incredibly valuable.
But how do we as listeners actually find these mentors? They're not just walking around with the sign, mentor for hire.
Well, you're right. It might not be that obvious.
Right.
But they're definitely out there. It could be someone in your field, a friend, a family member, even a historical figure whose work you admire.
Right.
The key is to be open to learning from others and incorporating their insights into your own journey.
Right. And remember, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
You might have something to offer someone else as well.
Absolutely.
So it's about building those connections and being open to learning from anyone and everyone.
Right.
And speaking of learning, Kaye's incredibly open about his own personal growth journey. In fact, he calls himself a slow learner.
That's what I find so refreshing about his writing. He's not afraid to admit his flaws.
Yeah.
In fact, he embraces them. He talks about his struggles with anger, impatience, being a poor listener.
Right.
And rather than dwelling on these shortcomings, he uses them as fuel for growth.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, hey, I'm not perfect, and that's okay.
It's a powerful reminder that we don't have to have it all figured out. It's okay to be a work in progress.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that personal growth is a lifelong journey, not a destination.
Right.
And that it's okay to be a work in progress. And it also ties back to the idea of mentorship. We can all learn from each other,
Yeah.
regardless of where we are on our own journeys.
So we've talked about grit assertiveness, mentorship, the importance of finding balance. But there's one more quote from Kaye's book that I want to touch on, and it's when he quotes Hunter S. Thompson,
Oh, yeah.
who famously said, "Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, 'Wow, what a ride.'"
That's a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
It speaks to the idea of living life to the fullest, embracing experiences and squeezing every drop of joy out of the journey.
But some might hear that and think, well, that sounds reckless and irresponsible. How do you interpret that?
I think it's more about having a sense of adventure and not being afraid to take risks.
Okay.
It's about living with passion and purpose and not letting fear hold you back from pursuing your dreams. It's not about being reckless, it's about being fully engaged in life.
It's about saying yes to opportunities, even if they scare us a little bit.
Yeah.
Stepping outside of our comfort zones and seeing where life takes us.
Precisely. And it's about recognizing that life is precious and fleeting.
Yeah.
We don't want to reach the end and wonder, what if?
Right.
We want to be able to look back and say, wow, what a ride.
And sometimes those wow moments come from unexpected places.
Right.
Like that story Kaye tells about, building a ladder to climb a tree as a child, who knew that a seemingly insignificant childhood memory could hold such valuable life lessons.
It's a reminder that wisdom can be found in the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
Even our past experiences, the ones that we might have dismissed as trivial, can offer profound insights if we take the time to reflect on them. And that brings us to a thought-provoking question inspired by Kaye's story. What seemingly small experience from your own past might hold a surprisingly powerful life lesson?
It's a great question. It could be a childhood memory, a chance encounter, a moment of failure or triumph that at the time seems insignificant. Take a moment to reflect on that. What seemingly small experience from your past might hold a surprisingly powerful life lesson.
And if you're feeling inspired, we'd love to hear your reflections. Yeah.
You can share your thoughts on our social media pages or simply jot them down in a journal.
It's all about continuing to learn and grow, and who knows, maybe your story will inspire someone else on their journey.
Exactly. This is a beautiful cycle of sharing and learning, and Kaye's book is a testament to the power of storytelling and its ability to connect us and inspire us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Jonathan Kaye's En Route to the Sunrise Saloon, we encourage you to ponder that question: what seemingly small experience from your past holds a surprisingly powerful life lesson? And remember, as Kaye so eloquently reminds us, what a ride.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep seeking wisdom, and keep those steel-toed boots handy just in case.
So welcome back, everybody, to the last part of our deep dive on Jonathan Kaye's book, En Route to the Sunrise Saloon. We've been talking about his adventures, his willingness to face challenges head on, and really his emphasis on personal growth and mentorship.
Yeah, it's really been a fascinating journey exploring Kaye's life and the lessons that he shares in the book.
So as we kind of wrap things up here, I'm curious to hear your final thoughts. What's the one key takeaway that you want listeners to walk away with from this deep dive?
For me, it's that idea that every experience, no matter how seemingly insignificant, can hold a powerful life lesson.
Yeah.
It's about looking back at our lives with a sense of curiosity and asking ourselves, what can I learn from this?
Like all those seemingly random events and encounters,
Yeah.
they're actually all pieces of a larger puzzle.
Right.
And when we take the time to reflect on them, we can start to see the bigger picture of our lives.
Exactly. And I think Kaye's story is a beautiful illustration of that. He takes us through these different chapters of his life, from childhood antics to adult triumphs and challenges, and shows how each experience, even the difficult ones, contributed to his growth and shaped who he is today.
It's a reminder that our stories matter, and that by sharing our experiences, we can connect with others, inspire them, and maybe even help them make sense of their own journeys.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to that thought-provoking question we posed earlier. What seemingly small experience from your own past might hold a surprisingly powerful life lesson?
It's an invitation to reflect on those moments that might have seemed insignificant at the time, but upon further examination, reveal hidden wisdom and insights. Maybe it's a childhood memory, a conversation with a stranger, or a moment of failure that taught you something valuable.
Yeah, it's about taking the time to excavate those forgotten moments and see what gems they hold.
And who knows, maybe in the process of reflecting on your own story, you'll discover something new about yourself or gain a fresh perspective on your current challenges.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about personal growth. It's an ongoing journey of discovery, and we can always learn something new, even from our past experiences.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into En Route to the Sunrise Saloon, we encourage you to take some time to reflect on that question. What seemingly small experience from your past holds a surprisingly powerful life lesson?
And remember, as Jonathan Kaye reminds us, wow, what a ride.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Jonathan Kaye's insightful memoir. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive and that you'll continue to seek out those hidden gems of wisdom in your own life and the world around you.